Good morning, everyone. At least morning here in America. How is everyone doing? Hopefully pretty good. Welcome to another session of the International Coaches Summit brought to you by the Basketball Embassy. I am so excited for this next speaker. His name is Stefanos Triantafilos. He's going to be talking about offense versus switching pick and roll defense, which will be really interesting. Obviously, Coach is an assistant over at Olympiacos, one of the most prestigious clubs in really the whole world. And so I'm really, really excited. And Coach, I know we got off to a little bit of a late start because of some of the sessions, but so I won't talk too much, but go ahead and take it away. We'll have some questions throughout. I encourage everyone to submit their questions in the bottom of the screen, and we'll get those to him either throughout the presentation or at the end, depending on how Coach is doing in terms of the topics and relative to the questions. So without further ado, Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor, to be honest. First of all, it's a privilege to be one of the speakers among so great coaches. Only following, Gannon Baker, it's like a huge honor. For me, I was watching the clinics throughout the quarantine from March. From March, it was really helpful. It helped us, not only to kill some time during, these difficult times, but it's also helped us a lot to hear different voices, to hear different opinions around our beloved sport, and it really helped to think a little bit now that we had the time to think over what we are doing, what we should be doing, and things like that. Thanks a lot for having me. It's an honor. So to start with the presentation, it's a topic that I think it's really important, especially for European basketball, because switching nowadays it's really common, and it is something that it has been troubling us, and also it's a weapon that we use in our team, but it's also something that we're dealing a lot of times in every game, because I was really lucky and honored to be a member of the coaching staff for Yorgos Bartzokas, a coach that likes a lot to play switching defense. So when we were scouting an opponent, it was also a big part of our scouting report and scouting analysis, how the other team tries to beat the switching defense. So not only we try and to use it as much as possible, but also we faced teams that they were doing against us, and it was always a subject that troubled the coaches, and it was always subject during our talks, before games, after games, to see what we do, what we have to improve, or what we are facing. I watched Coach Francesco Nani's lecture about the subject. It was really interesting. I found it really helpful, but mine will be a little bit different, because Coach Nani talked mostly about the individual aspect of the switching defense. I will talk more about team tactics. Before starting with my lecture and not boring you to death with my rambling, I will wanted to say that I will share my personal beliefs. But mostly this comes, from the philosophy, the coaching philosophy of Yorgos Bartzokas, a coach that I worked with in Khimki Moscow for 2 years, and now I'm working with him in Olympiacos, and also the other members of the coaching staff, Christos Papas, Yorgos Bozikas, and Mike Kalavros. I know Bozikas and Kalavros, they talked already during your clinic, so I guess you know them pretty well. So let's get started with a presentation. Give me 1 second, sorry. Sorry about that. The mouse is not responding so well. Okay. This is subject, and in the low bottom you can see my info, my email, Twitter account, and my Facebook account for whoever wants to reach out or talk basketball, ask a question, or wherever. I'm always very happy to talk about basketball, and I'm waiting if anyone wants to reach out. So we start by the definition of switching pick and roll defense. We start with defense and then we go to offense. It's a way to to be ready and know what we will face. The goals of switching pick and roll defense is first of all to convert the pick and roll to ISO or post up. The European teams are really familiar to run the pick and roll as a main offensive strategy to create not only opportunities for the ball handler and the roller, but also to create a lot of spot ups and get everybody involved. So all the teams, they are practicing a lot of pick and rolls, and they are not practicing so much. They don't have so much practice time on ISO situation and post up. This is the first goal of the switching defense, to convert these plays to something else, to make a pick and roll play to an ISO play. The second thing is that with pick and roll switching defense, you can stop the ball movement. You can limit the closeouts because, as mentioned before, there's no passing back, not an easy pass back, not easy creation, not a lot of ball movement, share the ball, and the handler starts to make a lot of dribbles, or after one pass, every player starts to read the mismatch and they stop playing and they start reading. This is the main reason that our team is using switching defense, to prevent the other team of having a good flow during its game and start to hesitate, to overthink, to maybe fake a pass and do something else. As mentioned before, to freeze the offense, to get the rhythm of the tempo of the game slower because of this. Okay, because let's say you're facing a transition early pick, and you start switching. There's no easy early option, but after that, the team has to see what they will do. They will run an ISO, they will run a post up, or run another action. This is something very important for me. Let's say that we have a defense and we're preparing our defensive strategy, and we say, okay, with this ball handler, we're doing this. Okay, maybe we're bleaching, we're hedging, or whatever you want to call it. And with the other handler, we're doing this. With 5, we're doing this. With 4, we're doing this. If it's a Spain pick and roll, a pick back pick situation, we're doing this. Too much information, and this overthinking, overanalysis leads to less hustling, less energy, less pressure on the ball, let's say, for instance. And with when a team, this is something that I've realized that happens a lot during the past years, that when we were switching, all the teams had only one rule on their head. Everybody will switch on the pick and roll, so I have to do only one thing, and they were more concentrated, and they had more energy to play better defense, because it's not important, okay, what you will play. Let's say you'll play flat, but how you'll play it. Let's say there's no flat defense there if there's no ball pressure and things like that. Let's see now. Let's go past to a trip to the past and see the trend of switching when it started. This is my personal view. I'm open to any discussion on this. Panathinaikos with Mike Batiste, when they signed him, he was playing the 3 in the NBA, and after a year in Italy, in Biella, if I recall correctly, he was playing at the 4, and then he established himself as the 5. He was playing the center position. He's a player like 2'3", 6'7", in the American measuring system, and he was really mobile. He was quick, and he could switch. So Panathinaikos, mid 2000, started to switch in the pick and rolls. He used Batiste as the main guy, and they also exploited the fact that they had big bodies in the perimeter, like Diamantidis, let's say, like Fotis on the 4 position, and they could easily play this kind of defense. The trend really hit when Kyle Hines, center, the best center in EuroLeague the past years, he was playing the 5 spot in Olympiacos. He was the starting player, starting five, and he was like 196, 198, like 6'6", sorry. So when Olympiacos won back-to-back titles with Heinz, using a lot of switching defense, this stuck to everybody. All the teams starting to sign mobile centers, and most of the teams starting switching. This also happened in the same, like 1-2 years after with Panathinaikos, when they recruited James Gist and Stefan Lasme, both around 6'7". They were their starting front line. And both of them, they were key parts of switching defense. This was the main defense of Panathinaikos by coach Argyris Pedoulakis, and they built their whole team around that, around the switching defense. Also, they had big guards, Ukic, Diamandidis, Masioulis at the forward position, and Kist Lasme. And they used this switching defense most of the time, making a lot of tricks, like putting their foreman, Gist in this occasion, guarding the ball handler, so they could easily switch, and this was a big part of their success. The team that the last team that thrived using switching defense was Lokomotiv Kuban under coach Yorgos Batzokas. That he also used this kind of defense in Olympiacos. He used it in Himki and now again in Olympiacos. Lokomotiv Kuban was a team that got to the Final Four, being the underdog, using this kind of strategy. This was the biggest weapon in their defensive arsenal. They had Chris Singleton at 5, who he was playing the small forward position when he was in the NBA with the Wizards. They had Anthony Radolf, a versatile big man, and they had Victor Claver, a player that's like he's around 6'10", and he was playing the 3 spot and the 4 spot, the 3 spot, the 5 spot, and Ryan Broekhoff, also a big forward. This was the team that I think excelled the switching defense. Now, again, staying on the introduction about switching defense, switching pick and roll defense, we have to take under, we have to keep in mind the NBA effect. You can see 6 European players that they, after 1 year or 0 years, or one couple of good seasons, they moved to the NBA. So the NBA is getting all their great 7-footers from Europe. So signing mobile or shorter players in the 5 position was something that European teams had to do. There was no other option. So in Europe now there are very few 7-footers, quality big men that can post up, that can be a threat near the basket. So this makes switching a lot easier. Not only because you have like a mobile center, let's say like Kyle Hines, and you can switch, but also when you are facing Kyle Hines, who is not a good post-up player, it's easy also to switch. You eliminate the mismatch in the paint. Saying that, we have to take under consideration the trend of basketball, the evolution of basketball, because when we were facing like in the early 2000 or early 2010, let's say, 10 years ago, we were facing a lot of great pull-up shooters. This was an attribute, a skill that most of the guards were growing, they were improving. So playing flat was really tough. We're having all these great pull-up shooters from the 3-point, from the mid-range, who were also great passers. So switching stopped all this. Another thing we have to take under consideration about the switching is that it's a trend for many teams, as we will see in the next slide. These are some examples of teams that are using during the last 3 years the switching defense as their primary or the secondary pick and roll defensive strategy. You will not see, as you can, let's take a look at this season, 2019-2020, Maccabi was using a lot of switching defense, having Hunter and Tariq Black at the 5. They were also using a lot of triple switch, something that Coach Yannis Feropoulos likes a lot, using big bodies in the 3 position. Olympiacos as well, Red Star, CSKA, Fenerbahce, and Himki. These teams used a lot of switching defense. In the whole list, you will not find many Spanish teams. Spanish teams don't like a lot of switching. They are built in a different way because we have to take under consideration that in the Liga Endensa, you can sign only 2 foreign players. All the rest of the leagues, you can sign 5, 6, 7, 8 foreign players. So they prefer to have another structure on the recruiting, to have another structure on the roster. They prefer big men with skills, 7-footers that know how to pass the ball, how to play in the low post, and they're better, let's say, in the fundamentals, but they're not so great athletes. This is something I think that has to do also with something that was mentioned before. This is the rhythm of the game. Most Spanish teams love the up-tempo game. They love to have to have a good rhythm, good flow on their game. So they prefer to play a lot of heads out, defense that keeps the ball moving and creates a better rhythm for the offense. So to get a little bit to our topic, these are the ways to attack the switch. There will be a video. We will start by the simple stuff and go to some more advanced things. The first thing is to attack the big man that's on the switch to play the ISO. Let's say, for example, the other one is to try to exploit the mismatch in the paint. This is something very common, or to create a miscommunication. This can happen either on the switch, the time of the switch, let's say with a slip, or try to exploit the fact that the rest of the team, X3, X2, let's say, for example, will be back in the paint, try to be a player deep when the other guard that on the switch is fronting, the other team has to support him. So they go real deep. So this creates a miscommunication on the high-low or on the weak side on the skip passes. The other thing is to convert the on-ball to an off-ball game. And with this way, you try to exploit every player's habit to relax when he's off the ball. Let's say you have an X5, a really good athlete, yet that he's switching, so he'll guard the ball with his 100% of concentration, but when the ball goes away from the handler's ball, he will relax. And it's a habit of the big men to drop and start looking for the ball, be ready to rotate and things like that. This is something really important. And the last thing is to keep the flow of the game. Many teams don't like just to stop playing and try to hit the mismatch, but they keep the ball moving to go to somewhere else, to find something else, like a closeout or things like that. This is the key for me to keep the flow of the game, because as mentioned before, the biggest advantage and the biggest goal of the switching defense is to make the other team stop playing. Let's say stop playing. That means stop moving the ball, start reading, start to look where to pass and things like that. What actions should we choose as coaching staff? First of all, it has to do with handlers' characteristics. Let's say you have a very good ISO player who is running most of the pick and rolls. Okay, maybe it's a good option to run an ISO play. Are the handlers ball hogs? This is really important because let's say we have something in mind that we want to run a certain action, but the player that runs most pick and rolls doesn't want to pass the ball. He doesn't feel comfortable sharing the ball with his teammates and then expecting the ball to come back to him. So many players would just break the play and do whatever they want, do the ISO play. And this is something really important for us to take under consideration because, okay, an action is an action, but this will not happen 100% because players play, the coaches don't play, the players play. So in many occasions, short clock situations, or for whatever reason, the player will try to go to his habits, to play an ISO, or to do something that comes to his mind at a certain time. So what we are trying to do by creating action is to have an alternative, and let's say if it's possible to have 70% of the time to run this action and 30% of the time, okay, let the player decide because the game will come finally to his hands. 70% is a great percentage for my point of view. Let's use an example. I was privileged to work in Himki and have the best offensive player in EuroLeague right now as a player, Alexei Zved, who he prefers to have the ball in his hands in these situations. So running an action, although we try to introduce an action, and we played it a couple of times in each game with him on the floor. Going to another action was really hard because he's very talented, he's very comfortable with the ball in his hands, and he liked to play the ISO game, which, to be honest, he was really good at. So we have to take this under consideration. First of all, the other thing, to keep on going and finishing with the presentation, going to the video, to the real stuff, the big men, if we have on our team a big man who can post or seal, this is really important. If we have a big target, we'll try and use another action instead of having like an ISO player or shooters. If we have only good pull-up players or good shooters in the perimeter, we'll try to use another action. The fourth reason is the coach's philosophy. There are a lot of coaches that insist on hitting the mismatch. There are a lot of coaches who prefer the ball to move, not to rest, not to stop playing, not to try to read the mismatch, but to have a good flow. This is something that we have to take under consideration. Also, we'll see a lot of things, a lot of different things. Some of them can be like actions, the main action that the team will run. There can be formation. There can be certain plays. Let's say we know the team is switching right now. We will run a certain play with a certain formation, a certain goal to reach the ball from the handler to a certain player, and then to go inside or just to read the defense's reaction. And the last one is like an ATO. We can use, let's say, on ball to off ball game after timeout or in certain plays. And the last thing is the opponent personnel that we have to take under consideration. Let's say they have a really bad defending big men, and they, for whatever reason, they are switching. Okay, maybe this is a good opportunity for us to go to the ISO. Or if they have a really good defender, like let's say Jan Vesely of Fenerbahce, like Kyle Hines, like Chris Singleton, many teams will try to avoid playing against them in ISO situation, and they will try to do something else. For example, in our team, when we had in Himki, first of all, 2 years ago, we had Malcolm Thomas, Anthony Gill, and Thomas Robinson, 3 great on-ball defenders. And most of the teams, they were not trying to play against them, but they were trying to do something else. And this is what we will look right now. We will see in the presentations things that our opponents did against our switching defense. You have to I have to underline that most of the things, they are not just plays that you stop playing. There are things that the team can run to keep the ball moving, to have a good flow. So let's go to the video. The mouse is still not. Sorry for that.
And as coach is figuring out his mouse situation, I just want to encourage everyone to participate in the Q&A at the bottom. We'll be taking those questions throughout the presentation and at the end as well. So thank you, guys.
As mentioned before, these things that we faced in the past, in the last 3 years, and we start from the simple stuff and go to some more advanced things. First of all, it's ways to exploit the perimeter mismatch if we got a good ISO player. The first thing is to go to a certain formation. This is something Coach David Blatt was using in Olympiacos. You see, here's a switch, and every player is going to a certain position to create this 2-3 formation. If we pause the video, you can see the paint is really empty, and now the ball handler, Vasilis Panoulis, in this occasion, has plenty of room to operate. Plus, we have now the switch with a 4, but if it was a switch with a 5, the big men would have a great advantage near the basket because whatever we say, the biggest mismatch after switching defense is the offensive rebound, and to be honest, it's something that you cannot do anything. If it's a big man with a smaller player, the big man always has an advantage. Here's the 2-3 formation. Again, it's the same formation, but with a boomerang action, a pass and a pass back. Strelnieks, it's a this season game. It's CSKA versus Maccabi. Maccabi was using a lot of switching, a lot of triple switching. They had great defenders, Hunter, Quincy Acey, Tariq Black, that could really play good one-on-one defense. From here, you see the pass and the pass back. And from there, the player having not live dribble, but from like a spot up, sort of a spot up situation, he can attack better. Again, it's the 2-3 formation. This gives the offensive player, the handler, a big advantage against the big man. The same thing. This is PnR. The switch. Brand Wanamaker now gets the ball back, and from the formation, he goes and passes by Brandon Davis. You can see near in the paint, this is the big man, Duveriolu, against Tupan. You can see now Tupan is occupied with the big man, but also the big man, if he could try to seal, he could make an offensive box out and make things easier for the handler with no rotation. This is a parenthesis, but I put these clips in this video, in this segment, because it's from the 2-3 formation, but the team, Olympiacos, in this occasion, again, under Coach's blood, he was facing Coach's Barzokas team, Himki, in this game. He didn't want to freeze the ball. He didn't want to stop playing. He wanted a quick and early decision from the handler to find something else. Here's the switch. You see a quick pass and close out because the rest of the team, the other defenders, they will try to support the point guard guarding the big man and try to help him to stop the advantage, the height advantage. This is Sasa Vezenkov. Left close out. Again, you see the same thing. Very quick pass, extra pass, and a three-point shot. You see the team from this formation can do a lot of things just by passing the ball really quickly. Same thing, quick pass, close out, they keep on playing. This is Baberg under coach Andrea Trinchieri. He was paying attention to this. This was their key, their main goal, playing against our switching defense. They didn't want to stop playing. They just wanted to keep the ball moving. You can see this again. Switch after switch, quick pass. Again, a new switch, just a pass back, and another player will attack. From the 2-3 formation, pass and attack the closeout. Now we're gonna see another option. It's the flare screen. Again, when you want to support a player, a good ISO player, the flare screen creates a lot of opportunities because it stops the team from packing the paint. This is a key part. Okay, having a good, a quick, a mobile big man guarding the ball is one thing. Having a big guard trying to squeeze the opposing center of the paint is another thing. But the most important thing when you try to play the switching defense, and this is something that most of the teams are doing, like Fenerbahce, like Zalgiris, Chimki or Olympiacos is trying to do after the switch. They're packing the paint to avoid easy penetrations and to create a wall around the ball handler. This is something other teams they are not doing, like CSKA and Panathinaikos under coach Pascual. They were relying on the switch and they wanted to cut everybody else from the game. Now we're watching Himki, our team, playing switching defense, and our team at the time, to be exact. And Himki, after the switch, always wanted to pack the paint. And with this flare screen, this is Nizhny. They had a great ISO player, Kendrick Perry, and they wanted to create opportunities for him. You'll see the power forward, Sergei Monia, he was zoning up, but now he's off. He's not zoning up. He's not stopping the penetration. He's dealing with his own player. And now, as you can see, Kendrick Perry exploits this open lane and goes for an easy layup. Fenerbahce was doing, I have to mention here, Fenerbahce is the team that, under coach Zeljko Obradovic, they were trying and they were using more things than any other teams. They had like 3 or 4 scenarios against switching defense. When they had Brad Wanamaker, a good ISO player in their team, they were using a lot of flare screens. Without Wanamaker, they were using different things. Now we're gonna see the switch and the flare after the pass. You can see that Tome is making the flare pick, no more zoning up. And as you can see, Brad Wanamaker is passing, is dribbling, is penetrating exactly in the lane where the defender was. But the defender, because he's occupied with the flare screen, he has to do something else. His mind is on something else. He has to make a choice, obviously, to follow his player or to stay and guard the ball. He's leaving and he's opening up a lane. Again, Nizhny under coach Lucic. It's the switch. You can see now the flare screen. Now the point guard. It's later on the game. He already had passed, by many times. Now he's using the flare screen. He's passing the ball for an open shot. Again, the same scenario. Flare screen after the switch. Now there's a switch. You can see the flare action in the right of the screen and close out attack. One more time from Fener. Mismatch, ISO play, again, flare screen. The big man is flaring for Bobby Dixon, a great shooter. Easy open shot. So with this way, not only a team can create opportunities for the ball handler to spread the floor, to create bigger gaps in the paint, but also can provide an off-ball opportunity for someone else. But again, let me finish with the flare screen because I find it really important and really interesting as a concept. The biggest thing that they create is the doubt. I'm a player. I have to pack the paint, but what should I do if my player is making a flare or he's getting a flare pick? What do I have to do? Should I stay or should I follow my player? And to be honest, this was always a talk before games, before playing teams that use these flare screens. It was always a debate with the coaches what to do, and we try different things depending on the time. Now we're going to a different concept. We try to exploit the miscommunication of the opposing team if they have to switch or they don't have to switch because there is a slip, not an actual screen, and the defenders get confused so many times. You see here, Huertas is opening up, waiting for the switch, but Mitchov is not screening, he's slipping, and we have an open lane for the point guard to attack. This common concept, guard screens or guard with 4 screens, let's say slips, that create this opportunity. This team is really interesting. It's Hapoel Holon. a team coached by Stefanos Dedas, a coach that thrives using a lot of ISO plays, really interesting team to watch, fun team to watch, and has a great things to offer. If you follow the ideas that they're using. Now, you can see also a slip that creates an ISO situation and a kick-out game. Same thing here. It's again a slip. Jerebko is a great player to move around the floor. He slipped and he created an open layup for himself. Again, the same thing. Mirotic, a player that a stretch four that he can pop, he can screen, he can slip, he can roll, he can do all those kind of things because of he's very, very, very talented. Now he's slipping, and as you can see, Jay Cohen is ready to make the switch, but he loses his player. His player is slipping, and he goes for a layup. Same thing here. It's again Hapoel Holon. This player, number 6, is TJ Klein. Sorry to pronounce the name correctly. He's one of the best players, best big men to read these situations and decides when to slip and when to screen. And now he's slipping, as you can see, an easy layup for him. If I don't know, it's not on the subject, but if it makes any sense, I have a personal opinion about how to play against these kind of slips. To avoid this miscommunication, you have to have one rule. You cannot have the players decide, oh, he was too far, he was too wide, he was too close, we have to switch, it's a screen, it's a slip, or whatever. My belief and the rule that we are using is if it's a slip, if it's a screen, always switch. And this, you will avoid having any miscommunication. You'll do always the same thing. And as mentioned before, having less things on your mind makes you more energetic on defense, which is the thing you have to do. This is the most important thing. So now we're moving from hitting the perimeter mismatch. We're going to hitting the mismatch in the paint. This is a concept that many teams are using. They try certain formations. They target a certain player to receive the quick pass from the handler, and he has to decide either to feed the ball or to skip the ball to the open man if the defense is shrinking a lot, if they're packing the paint and they're leaving somebody open in the weak side. This is the second concept that the Fener is using. We said about the flare screens. This is a set that they're using their 3 or 4 man player to flash in the pass forward, in the first pass that the handler sees, and he can have all the floor and all the time on his hands to read the situation. Datome now gets the ball, and from a different angle, he can feed the ball in the post. This is really important because this way the team alters the angle of the pass, and if the player is fronting from one side, then from a pass back or another pass forward, he can change and receive the ball. The big man can receive the ball if he makes a good seal. Zalgiris is using this set a lot. It's a set that they're using like short clock situations, end of quarters, end of games. It's a sort of pick back pick, but they're not really screening. They want their shooter, Milaknis, in this occasion, an excellent shooter, to make a flash in the pass back to create confusion. They're also using this against switching defense when they want to feed the ball from a high post, from a high low. You see the player was fronting, but with another pass, there was a good passing lane occurring. Again, this is the play with a high-low, with a guard. They have a good ankle to pass the ball inside. So another good option just to say, okay, we want to hit the mismatch in the paint, is to have a certain formation, to know exactly who will get the ball. And with a flash, he's not like standing, okay, and making the defense life easy, to deny this pass. But when he flashes, he can receive the ball easily, and then he can convert the high-low. Now again, we'll go to another Fenerbahce action. As you can tell, Fener was creating the most problems to our coaching staff before the game. So for how we're going to deal with their actions against our switching defense, this is really interesting. This is again, it's Fener was using a certain formation to hit the switching defense. They were using it only against switching defense. This play is designed for this exact purpose, and it cannot create advantage for the offense if there's a hedging or if the defense is flat or whatever. So Coach Obradovic only uses this offense, this play, this formation when he's playing against switching defense. So there's the pick and roll. 4 is in the strong side. He is always the target for the quick pass forward. And as you can see, there's no weak side because the corner player is going for, he's flashing the high post for the high-low. And as you can see, Kostas Lukas and Eric Green in this occasion, they're moving in the strong side, and there's nobody in the weak side to help the big man. I have many clips of this play to see different options. Again, same formation. Foreman gets the ball, flash from the corner player, high-low, an easy high-low. Again, as you can see, now they know the play. They react after the first easy basket they allowed. Keith Langford is denying. He tries to deny the flash from the corner. But as you can see, this is really important because the rim protector, the best on-ball big man defender, the guy that will try to block shots, to alter shots, to help or to go to the defensive rebound, is out of the picture completely because he's guarding a player away from the ball. This is against Himki after timeout. But again, same thing. As you can see now, the last defender, now it's Tony Crocker who is under the basket. I mean, now has in mind that he cannot help for the low pass. He cannot stay in the paint because his playing is flashing. So eventually, the last player is Markovic on the weak side, but you can see how far he is and what kind of distance he has to make to go under the basket and help his teammate. He had to go from three-point line to go and help deep in the paint. Difficult thing to do. First is a hedge, and then the switch. Same scenario. Pass forward, easy pass inside, no help from the weak side because the two top players are screening each other and make the defense occupied. Same thing, you see the flash, and now the last defender had to make a decision. There was a miscommunication. I will play this again. What's the last two defenders in the weak side? Miscommunication between them. Who will guard the flash? Obviously, we had a rule. Who's gonna deny the high-low, because denying the high-low when we play switching defense is a key for us. The last player, Crocker, now in this situation had to go and deny the high-low, deny Datome, and the top player had the difficult job to do, to go and help our point guard who was fronting. The key in this game, if it has any importance, was not so much are who goes where, but we had paid all our attention, and this was the key guideline that we gave to the players, that you have to put a lot of pressure to the ball. So it's not so much who goes where, but that now the ball that's in Nicolomeli's hands has to be pressured so that he cannot make whatever pass he wants in whatever fashion he wants to pass. Again, a parenthesis to cover this thing really quickly. It's a triple switch. Many teams like Panathinaikos with Coach Pasquale was using, like Maccabi with Coach Feropoulos is using. You see the triple switch. Zalgiris, when they are facing a switching defense, they were using a lot Kavaliauskas in the paint, a big target, a player that really good in offensive box out. He could seal his player near the basket, was really effective, and a good free throw shooter also. So against switching defense, they were using him a lot. Now you can see the triple switch, but no front. We're gonna go through this matter in this clip. For me and our coaching staff, triple switching is not the best idea. I'm not criticizing anyone that is using this, but it has a big disadvantage. If you go for a triple switch, you cannot front the post, because a player coming from the weak side cannot play front. He will always stay behind his player. So if you have a big target inside, a good big man that not only he can be good in the low post, but if he is big and he can seal his player, it's an easy option against this kind of defense. Sorry about the disturbance. There's a puppy in here. So as you can see, triple switch, Avdija cannot front during the triple switch. So Jan Vesely has easy job to front and receive the ball. Now he's receiving a foul. Another option against switching triple switch, is a quick pass back. As you can see, now Kologiaro is going for the triple switch. He will guard Monroe, but Low with a quick pass back finds the open man for a quick shot. The last option is not like an action, but it's a good read and a good play, let's say, after timeout, in my opinion. A great read by Meli. This was used by Coach Andrea Tincheri in Bamberg against Olympiacos of Coach Feropoulos, as mentioned before, a coach that loves the triple switching. You see after the switch, Papapetru tries to recover on the big man, and Eric Green, the guard, has to go and guard Darius Miller on the 45 on the free throw line extended, but he's screened by Meli. He blocks the rotation, and there is a 2-1 game in the weak side after that. So with this, we cover the triple switch. Use it as a parenthesis because it's something that you may face. There are easy ways to deal if a coach wants to hit the mismatch in the paint, or you can use any other actions as the ones we will show later that keep the ball moving. Guard-to-guard pick, also an option. Zalgiris is running it a lot. This is something a team that doesn't have a big advantage with the 4 and 5s. Maybe they have mobile players, but they have a big 3 they can use against switching defense to try to exploit a mismatch in another position than the 2 bigs. CSKA was using it a lot with Clyburn, a versatile player forward. They were using, at first we saw Zalgiris was using a typical sideline pick and roll. Now CSKA is using a step up pick. Not much of a difference in my opinion. As you can see, Hans is ready for the high-low, but Clyburn gets the ball. Easy way and a good option against switching defense to try to create another switch. Now, this is a particular play because Clyburn is playing at the 3 spot and he's pushing the ball down the floor. He gets a pick from a weaker defender, from a shorter player that he's guarded by a weaker low post defender, the point guard in this instance. They force the screen, the wing clears out. Now it's the four, Alec Peters, and they create an ISO situation with his back to the basket. This clear out. This is another option. Again, it's a 1-2-3 pick and roll to force the switch. No clear out this time, a pass, and the player with a mismatch goes near the paint, high-low action for this basket. I finished the guard to guard switch with this clip. It's the only clip that I will use from the NBA. All the other clips are from EuroCup and EuroLeague teams mostly. This is, but I find it really, really interesting because it's a decoy, let's say, play. You play against the switch, you force the switch, and after that, there's an off-ball play. You convert, again, the pick and roll to an on-ball situation to an off-ball situation. Now, this is the previous clip was a good introduction in off-ball action after the switch. Many teams, they don't want to over dribble. They don't want to leave the ball too much on the ball handler's hands. So they want to do something else. They want to lead the offense to go somewhere else, not on the switch. So Onyx Kazan by coach Dimitris Priftis was using this action as a set play and as an action against switching defense. We're gonna see in this clip the action without the switch, like a guard-to-guard handoff and a flare, just to get there. You can see now, this is the action. The guard is dribbling, using a dribble handoff, and then they force the switch because of guard-to-guard. And as you can see, this on the clip is the late Tyler Honeycutt, a great player and person also have opportunity to mention. As you can see, this is the tendency. I'm a player, I'm guarding someone, he doesn't have the ball, he has passed the ball, and now I tend to relax. This happens especially after the switch. So this team with a dribble handoff, they are forcing the switch, and after that, they are relying on the player's habit to relax, and they're setting a really good screen to create an open shot. This is the plain thing, the plain action. Once more, another option out of this. You see, again, a switch, no screen now. Our X5, Malcolm Thomas, on this occasion was ready to help on the flare. Good flash inside by Stefan Lasme, and this opportunity for a layup. Now, we can see this action against switching defense. After the switch, they go for the dribble handoff, and now there is the flare, but let's not focus on the flare so much right now. We're going to see better in the next clip. After the switch, there is dribble handoff, another ball handler, but a great opportunity for another player to create some speed and go and attack and go downhill against X5, who may or may not relax because his player is doesn't have the ball so much. He's going for a dribble handoff, and maybe he will relax. Same situation here. The switch, and after that, dribble handoff. The defender X4 in this occasion, X5, sorry, in this situation, Anthony Gill wasn't ready. He relaxed after the dribble his player handed the ball, and he wasn't ready to play defense, and he committed a foul in this occasion. This is really important. We have to underline the fact that Coach Priftis, that was using this, was a player with his team had great execution. He didn't have ball hogs in the perimeter, and he was running a team basketball system. So it was really easy and really convenient, and it benefited him a lot to use this action that he could get the ball off the ball handler's hands. We're gonna see again. Now we can pay attention to the flare screen after the dribble handoff. Here's the switch. dribble handoff, flare. Very good option. Another thing, this is something that many teams are using. They're making a pick and a veer screen to the weak side guard. I'm using veer screen as the Clippers they're using, the Celtics are using this. It's a pick and roll and a pin down after that. So it can be a pick on the ball or a slip on the ball, which can create confusion. Now you see, Walkup is not ready after the switch to guard, to play defense in an off-ball situation, and he leaves an open shot. This was the concept Coach Trinchieri was using in Bamberg. He was calling it a winner. It was a short clock play, a special situation play, let's say, in the end of quarters, end of games, a slip that creates confusion, as you can see on the top of the ball. And after that, he was going for the pin down. This is a more difficult concept, for my opinion. Very, very interesting. Zalgiris is using it. They're using either if they have a sideline pick and roll with a back pick and a pin down on the weak side, or in this case, in another formation. It's really important to see there is a switch. The last defender commits because he has to help, and there's a pin down at the same time. And his player exploited the fact that his opponent was watching the ball. He was ready to help the mismatch, and he left a completely open three-point shot. Now, this concept was introduced by Coach Sito Alonso. He was using it in Bilbao, and after that in Baskonia. This is Baskonia, a team that was coached at the moment under Pedro Martinez, who kept this concept. There is the switch, and at the same time, there is a pass back. And again, you see, they're clearing out the wing, and the rim protector now, you see, he gets relaxed, and they try to take him out of the picture. They try to take the rim protector out of the paint, away from the basket. And now, Granger will use a dribble. He will attack to the side that Malcolm Thomas is on, to make him commit on the penetration, because as we said before, this is the player's habit. He's an X5. He's always ready to help, so he will leave his player unguarded. This concept, from the idea of Sito Alonso, Coach Barzokas is using it in Lokomotiv, in Himki, and Olympiakos. This is the concept that he had excelled or improved or changed, whatever you prefer. The concept is the same. Also, strong side, clear out. The ball handler goes to the 45, and then after the pass back, he goes to the corner. He wants to make X5 make a decision. Either he will stay on the ball and leave the ball handler open, or he will commit to the ball handler and he open up the lane, as you can see. And from there, with no over dribbling, there's the high-low inside. As you can see, Tay Ellis is under the basket. There's an open pass, but also there's the option to pass back to the ball handler. And from there, from a stationary position, he has more room and a more easy way to attack the big man.
And Coach, real quick, I know we've got a lot of questions starting to come in, and unfortunately, there's another session that here in a couple of minutes is going to need to use our room here, which is unfortunate because I'm learning a lot. I know our coaches here are learning a lot. This is amazing content, but just for we have maybe a couple more minutes left, so I just wanted to give you a heads up on that.
Okay, thanks. I will try to breeze through the rest of the clips. Same concept, with always the philosophy to keep on playing. This is the last part of the presentations. Sideline pick and roll. We were watching only middle pick and rolls. so far. So many teams are using an early sideline pick and roll to force the switch really early in the possession and have a lot of time to attack. Sideline pick and roll, I think it's an easier option because it creates an easy high-low. As you can see now, there's the high-low. There's no player in the weak side. Again, sideline, switch, high-low from the guard, an easy flash from the guard, and an easy high-low from there because the last defender has the tendency to stay and help in the low pass. Same concept, as you can see, high-low from the corner player, miscommunication. Sideline pick and roll. Now the flash, the high-low will be with the opposite big man. An easy option, in my opinion, because the defender of the big man will not be so energetic to try to deny. Because, as we said before, X5 has the tendency to protect and to help everybody. As you can see, same option. The big man is going for the high-low, and they convert this pass. This is one of the great benefits of going for the high-low with a big man. As you can see now, Cavallazos will go on the top. He has the opportunity to pass inside. He has the opportunity to, let's say, keep on with a sideline pick and roll or another, a two-man game on the weak side, or to make the skip pass as he does now for Milaknis. And we'll go only for this clip. Again, sideline pick and roll. It's the same concept used by Coach Barzokas. High-low with a big man. The only difference is that now we want number 22, the ball handler, to go to 45 or the corner, and the big man to dribble to create a better angle for the pass and create a weak side. Last clip, I promise. This is the last one, as you can see. Sideline pick and roll, high-low with the other big man, a quick pass forward. As you can see, the player is dribbling, and the tent is completely empty for a good high-low. This is it from me.
That's great stuff, Coach. And again, I really, really appreciate you taking some of your time out and doing this session for us. If you could, real quick, pull up your presentation again for your contact information. We have some questions that are coming in, and we don't have time to get to them now, but I want people to be able to send them to you if you're all right with that.
Of course, I'm okay with that. Give only 1 minute.
There we go. Yeah, so he's got his email and social media outlets up there. So yeah, I encourage you guys to send him questions. I know we had some lined up, and I wish we could get to them, but there's another session coming up right now that has to use this room. So again, thank you so much, Coach, for your time.
Thank you very much
really
for the
appreciate
opportunity. It's an honor to be among great coaches that they're talking to this to the clinic. Great job. Keep on the good work. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Coach. Take care. Stay safe out there.